The fluorescent lights of the grocery store flickered overhead as Marcus Carter fumbled with his wallet, his 4-year-old son Ethan tugging insistently at his worn jacket. It was the 3rd time that week he'd miscounted their grocery budget, and the embarrassment burned hot across his cheeks as the cashier waited with practiced patience. Behind him the line grew longer, and Marcus could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on his shoulders. This wasn't how he'd imagined fatherhood would be, standing in a checkout line at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, choosing between milk and bread, because his paycheck wouldn't stretch to cover both. But life had a way of rewriting plans, especially after his wife Sarah had walked out 18 months ago, leaving nothing but a note on the kitchen table and the echo of her footsteps fading down their apartment hallway. "Daddy, that lady smiled at me," Ethan whispered, his small hand pointing toward a woman in an elegant charcoal blazer, standing 2 lanes over. Marcus barely glanced up, too focused on counting the crumpled bills in his hand one more time, hoping somehow the total would magically change. "That's nice, buddy. Stay close, okay?" Marcus put back the box of cereal, his stomach knotting with guilt as Ethan's face fell. The boy loved those honey-flavored loops, had asked for them specifically because Mommy used to buy them. Marcus had learned not to flinch at those casual mentions anymore, though each one still felt like a paper cut to the heart. The next morning at Riverside Elementary's parent-teacher conference, Marcus arrived 15 minutes late, his work shirt hastily tucked in, a coffee stain he hadn't noticed decorating his collar. Mrs. Patterson, Ethan's teacher, greeted him with the kind of sympathetic smile that made Marcus want to disappear into the linoleum floor. "Mr. Carter, Ethan is doing wonderfully academically," she began, shuffling papers on her desk. "But I'm concerned about the upcoming Mother's Day celebration. He's been asking questions about why he doesn't have a mommy like the other children." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I've tried explaining." "I know you have, and you're doing an incredible job," Mrs. Patterson interrupted gently. "But at his age, abstract explanations don't always help. The class is planning a muffins with mom morning next Friday. Perhaps you could attend in her place. I'm scheduled for a double shift that day." "I can't." Marcus stopped, running his hand through his hair. "I'll figure something out." But figuring things out proved harder than anticipated. His mother lived 3 states away, recovering from hip surgery. Sarah's mother had made it clear she wanted nothing to do with them after her daughter left. Marcus's younger sister was deployed overseas. Every solution seemed to crumble before he could fully form it. That weekend, Marcus took Ethan to Riverside Park, hoping the sunshine and playground would distract them both from the looming Mother's Day event. They'd just settled onto a bench with hot dogs from the corner vendor when Ethan suddenly jumped up, his eyes wide with recognition. "Daddy, it's the pretty lady from the store!" Before Marcus could react, Ethan was running across the grass toward a woman sitting alone on a blanket with a book. Marcus's heart jumped into his throat as he grabbed their things and hurried after his son, apologies already forming on his lips. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. He's very friendly," Marcus began, but stopped short when the woman looked up. She was striking, probably in her mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and eyes that crinkled warmly. When she smiled at Ethan, she wore jeans and a white t-shirt, but something about her posture suggested capability and quiet confidence. No apology needed. "Hello again, sweetheart," she said to Ethan, closing her book. "I remember you from the grocery store." "You have a nice smile," Ethan announced with the brutal honesty of childhood. "My daddy says I should stay close to him, but I wanted to say hi." "Ethan, we need to let the lady read in peace," Marcus said, his embarrassment growing by the second. "Actually, I could use a break from this business proposal," she laughed, gesturing to the book, which Marcus now saw was actually a thick binder filled with charts and documents. "I'm Elena, and you are?" "Ethan, and this is my daddy, Marcus. He works really hard and gets tired sometimes." "Ethan." Marcus wanted the earth to swallow him whole, but Elena's expression softened rather than hardened. "It's very observant of you to notice that. Ethan, your daddy must take very good care of you." What followed was one of the most unexpected hours of Marcus's recent life. Elena seemed genuinely interested in Ethan's enthusiastic, rambling about dinosaurs, his preschool, and his elaborate theories about why clouds were shaped like animals. She didn't check her phone once, didn't make excuses to leave. When Ethan asked if she wanted to push him on the swings, she didn't hesitate. Marcus watched from the bench, simultaneously grateful for the brief respite and anxious about imposing on this stranger's kindness. There was something familiar about her, though he couldn't place it. Perhaps she just had one of those faces. "Daddy, can Elena come to muffins with Mom at my school?" Ethan asked suddenly, running back with Elena trailing behind. Her cheeks flushed from exertion. Marcus felt his face burn. "Ethan, no. We can't ask, that's not—" "Please," Mrs. Patterson said, "I could bring someone special. And Elena is really nice, and she likes dinosaurs too." Ethan's eyes were wide and pleading. "Buddy, Elena has her own life, her own responsibilities. We can't just—" "When is it?" Elena asked quietly. Marcus met her eyes, seeing nothing but genuine curiosity there. "This Friday morning. But really, you don't have to—" "What time?" 9 o'clock, but—" "I could do that," Elena said simply. Then, crouching down to Ethan's level, "But only if your daddy says it's okay, and only if you understand that I'm coming as a friend, not as a replacement for your mommy. Deal?" Ethan nodded so vigorously Marcus worried about whiplash. That night, after Ethan finally fell asleep clutching his stuffed brontosaurus, Marcus sat at their tiny kitchen table and Googled Eleanor Riverside Park business professional. He wasn't sure why he did it. Some instinct that there was more to this woman than met the eye. The search results made his coffee mug slip from his fingers. Elena Morrison, CEO of Morrison Technologies, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Forbes 30 under 40, philanthropist. Estimated net worth, $847 million. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. The woman who'd been pushing his son on the swings, who'd gotten grass stains on her jeans sitting cross-legged talking about Triceratops, was one of the most powerful executives in the nation. Friday morning arrived with Marcus's stomach in knots. He'd texted the number Elena had given him 3 times, offering her an out, but each time she'd replied with warm reassurance. Still, he half expected her not to show. At 8:55 a.m., a sleek black car pulled up in front of Riverside Elementary. Elena stepped out wearing a soft blue dress, her hair down around her shoulders, looking nothing like the power executive from the photos and everything, like someone who genuinely wanted to be there. "Elena!" Ethan shrieked, breaking free from Marcus's hand and running to her. She caught him in a hug, laughing. "Ready for some muffins?" Marcus hung back as they entered the classroom, watching Elena navigate the sea of mothers and children with ease. She complimented the decorations Ethan had made, admired his cubby, and made polite conversation with Mrs. Patterson, but what struck Marcus most was how she never once checked. Her phone never once seemed impatient or distracted. During the muffin breakfast, Ethan proudly introduced Eleanor to the other children. "This is my friend Elena. She's a mommy for today." One of the other mothers, Jennifer Hartwick, whom Marcus recognized as the PTA president, leaned over. "How lovely that you could take time from work to be here." "What do you do?" "I work in technology," Elena said simply, offering no further details. It was one of the other mothers, pulling out her phone to take photos, who recognized her. Marcus heard the whispered, "Oh my God, is that Elena Morrison?" ripple through the room. Phones came out. Whispers grew louder. Elena's smile tightened almost imperceptibly, but she kept her attention on Ethan, helping him spread jam on his muffin, asking him about his favorite school activities. Jennifer Hartwick's entire demeanor changed, her smile becoming obsequious. "Ms. Morrison, I had no idea. We're actually fundraising for new computers for the school library. If you have a moment, I'd love to discuss." "This morning is about the children," Eleanor said firmly but politely. "Perhaps another time." After the event ended, and the crowd of mothers trying to network had finally dispersed, Eleanor walked Marcus and Ethan to the parking lot. "I'm sorry about that circus in there," Marcus said, hefty with second-hand embarrassment. "I didn't realize who you were when we met." "If I had—" "You would have what?" Not let Ethan say hello? Refused my offer to come today? Elena's expression was unreadable. I would have understood that your time is valuable. Too valuable to spend on a 4-year-old boy who needed someone to show up for him. Elena's voice was soft but intense. Marcus, do you know why I was in that grocery store at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? Because I'd worked 16 hours straight and realized I hadn't eaten. Why I was alone in the park on a Saturday? Because I have no family of my own, no children, and more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but no one to share it with. Marcus stood speechless as Elena continued. When Ethan smiled at me in that store, it was the first genuine human connection I'd had in weeks. Everyone in my life wants something. Investors want money, employees want direction, charities want donations, journalists want stories. But Ethan just wanted to say hi. He reminded me what it feels like to be seen as a person, not a bank account or a business opportunity. She knelt down in front of Ethan. Thank you for inviting me today, sweetheart. I had the best time. Will we see you again? Ethan asked, his voice small and hopeful. Elena looked up at Marcus, a question in her eyes. Over the following months, Eleanor became an unexpected presence in their lives. She attended Ethan's preschool graduation. She helped Marcus navigate a particularly brutal bout of the flu that left him barely able to stand. She never offered money, never treated them as a charity case, but simply showed up at the park, at school events, occasionally for pizza dinners in Marcus's cramped apartment. She told them about her own childhood in foster care, about building her company from a college dorm room, about the loneliness that accompanied success. And Marcus, in turn, found himself opening up about Sarah's departure, about his fears of failing Ethan, about his dreams of going back to school for an engineering degree. Why us? Marcus asked one evening after Ethan had fallen asleep during a movie, his head on Elena's lap. You could have anyone do anything. Elena was quiet for a long moment, her hand gently stroking Ethan's hair. Because you didn't want anything from me. Because Ethan taught me that the most valuable things in life aren't negotiated in boardrooms. Because showing up for someone who needs you, really showing up, matters more than any business deal I'll ever close. She looked at Marcus then, really looked at him. And because somewhere along the way, you both became my family, if you'll have me. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. We'd be honored. 2 years later, Marcus stood in a small courthouse wearing his first new suit in 5 years, paid for with earnings from the engineering program Elena had encouraged him to pursue. Elena stood beside him in a simple white dress, her hand clasped in his, while Ethan fidgeted excitedly in his miniature tuxedo. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? The judge asked. I do, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. And do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Elena squeezed Marcus's hand, her eyes finding Ethan's delighted face. I do. As the small gathering of friends erupted in applause, Ethan tugged on Eleanor's dress. Does this mean you're my mommy for real now? Not just for a day. Elena scooped him up, tears streaming freely down her face. Forever, sweetheart. For every single day, forever. Later, at the modest celebration in their new home, purchased not with Elena's money, but with careful savings and Marcus's growing engineering salary, Marcus pulled his wife aside. Thank you, he whispered, for seeing us, for choosing us. Elena leaned into him, watching Ethan show their guests his new dinosaur collection. Thank you for teaching me that the greatest investment I could ever make wasn't in technology or business ventures. It was in love, in family, in showing up for the people who matter. Sometimes, she reflected, the most powerful position you could hold wasn't CEO or executive or billionaire. Sometimes it was simply being someone's mother, someone's wife, someone's family. And that was worth more than all the boardrooms and bottom lines in the world. Because in the end, kindness wasn't a business strategy. It was simply the best way to be human.